Hello, YouTube. Today is January 31st. January is finally over. Thank God. I don't know about y'all, but I'm over it with winter. I hate winter. For the people who say they love winter, are usually people who don't like going outside for whatever reason. I love going outside. I love life. So, you know, please give me 100-degree weather, especially me in my adult age. Give me summer over winter any day. Now, when I was younger, I used to love the winter because I wasn't allowed to go nowhere. My parents were very strict and religious, and I could laugh about it now because, like, ain't none of that in the Bible. But people just make up their own rules as they go along to control things. Like, I wasn't allowed to wear a bathing suit. I didn't go to the beach until my friend and her sister put me on. I actually met them in church, and they was like, "Girl, I'm from Brooklyn. They like, you never been to Coney Island?" My father was like, "Oh, it's corny, just as an excuse." And I wasn't allowed to wear no bathing suit. I didn't wear my first bathing suit until I was 17. And I think it's a family thing because, like, I have a cousin. She was like, she just started wearing bathing suits recently. She just started going on vacation and stuff. But even if you don't go on vacation, just as something as simple as a bathing suit, going to the beach, whatever, that has to be taught. And I didn't realize it. But yeah, like, even when I'm not on vacation, I wear a bathing suit going to the spa. I started going to the spa like over 10 years ago. I always heard about other people doing it. And I was like, I want to do that. So I started doing it on my own and stuff like that. And yeah, so I love the summer because it's stuff to do, outdoor activities, and it's fun stuff to do. How could you hate summer? Every now and again it gets too hot, but I'll take that over this winter because winter is depressing. For me, all I want to do is stay in the house. I do, I want to go out for Valentine's Day weekend, but it's fucking cold. Like, I'm looking at the forecast now. It's supposed to snow on the 13th. I'm like, boy. And Inkwell, shout out to Inkwell. I went there for my birthday last year. They actually called me this year. I'm not going there for my birthday this year, but they always send me emails for it's an after work spot. So, like, it's cool, like, after work spot with what you call it, um like Valentine's Day celebration, whatever. And I'm like, people gonna have their boots on, like they heavy duty, so they have to allow that, whatever. But today I wanted to talk about miscommunication and fake friends. I was thinking about it, so why not talk about it? So today I'm watching My Little Women of Atlanta. I love watching it over and over again. Like, it's fire. It's like my favorite TV show. And so, rest in peace to Minnie. Those of y'all who are fans, she passed away like this April will make 6 years. She's been passed on now that quickly. After she passed away, the ratings went down and the show went off the air. But while she was on the show, it was very good. And Minnie had her flaws, but she was a very loving person. Like, she had a big heart, and no matter how bad Juicy treated her, she always wanted to mend the friendship. And I think the reason why I love Minnie so much is, low key, she reminds me of myself and how I used to be. When you're an only child, sometimes your friendships mean everything to you. And every now and again, I think about my former friendships that they weren't true friends. And I wanted to talk about that. Like, I'm a stronger person now than ever before. And I don't beg people to be in my life. I did that with two people, because most of the time if somebody cut me off, I don't care. But it was two people in particular. And I thought about what happened over and over again, and I'm like, I didn't do nothing wrong. Like me, if I do something wrong, I'll admit it and I'll apologize to the person. But I've spoken about these people in previous videos, and I wanted to talk about it again just to reiterate. If you are not friends with somebody because of very small miscommunication, they was never a friend. So I wanted to talk about the episode on Little Women of Atlanta with Andrea. Amanda got proposed to, and Andrea got immediately upset because she wasn't a part of it. Anybody who watches the show and you see what type of person Andrea is very miserable. And it's not because of Chris. And I wanted to talk about that. You have women who go through things with men and they portray the man as the culprit, but it's really them. They are the miserable person. They are the toxic one. You have women who have good men in their life and they're very toxic, right? One of my former friends, and I didn't beg her to be in my life, but I did years later approach her because I found out she was talking crap about me. And I didn't understand why. And then I finally realized she's toxic and very miserable and very unhappy. Now she has a career, she has a house, and she has a very good man. I was in her wedding and everything like that. But she was very miserable. She had very low self-esteem, and something as simple as me having my own opinion about stuff, she used that as a scapegoat. And I didn't really give a fuck because I'm like, you know what, whatever. Once she didn't come to my housewarming for my first apartment, and then she didn't come to my birthday party, I was done with her. I'm like, okay, she not a friend, moving on. But then when I heard because we still remain friends on Facebook, we just wasn't talking, hanging out no more. And we didn't really hang out much because she was a homebody. So I accepted it like, okay, we not friends, whatever. And I hit her up about 5 years later, 2017. And I was like, yo, I heard you was saying this and this about me. And I realized she was miserable because if you're a happy person, why would you be talking about somebody, right? So her thing was, oh, I was negative about everything. And I'm like, how so? She was like, oh, I was negative about men. I was like, what man? I supported you in your marriage. I was in your wedding. I always say he a good dude. What I was telling her is the dude she was entertaining, I can't really call that a relationship. They never went on a date. But the dude before her husband, he just was using her for sex. So he tried to re-enter her life, and I was telling her that's not a good idea. And it's funny because every time I watch the movie A Good Man, it reminds me of her because her husband was a really good dude. Like, he was even better than the guy from A Good Man. Like, he never put her down. Like, in A Good Man, Kamal Smith on Tubi, he actually, like, puts her down and stuff. Her husband never put her down. She actually had a really, really good dude. So she bumps into the jailbird, and she's communicating with him via Facebook. And I was telling her that's not appropriate. Like, you're married, and this dude just trying to fuck you. And then he would say things to her, like she was pregnant for him, had a miscarriage. He was not there for her. Her husband was. And this is when her and her husband didn't even make it official yet to be boyfriend and girlfriend, but he showed her kindness from day one. He's her A1 day one, right? And then he threatened to sleep with her sister, this dude. It wasn't just he was a jailbird. He was just disrespectful towards her, you know. So I was telling her, like, yo, you don't need to be in communication with him because he's no good, right? Shortly after that, she's like, she don't want to be friends with me. And I remember telling my father the scenario. He was like, yeah, she's twisting things because you don't support her in her stupidity. That's what it is. I said, yeah, it gotta be, because how you telling me, oh, I don't think we could be friends anymore? Like, it just came out of nowhere, y'all. And that's what I wanted to tell. This is what I wanted to inform y'all. When you're friends with somebody and everything is going good, and then all of a sudden they talk about we can't be friends no more, they was thinking about that all along. Because one miscommunication can never destroy a friendship. And if it does, y'all was never friends. Right? So that was her. Then I think I had spoke to y'all about a dude. He was actually my son's godfather. And with him, he always was cutting me off. Like every few years, he would stop talking to me. And so finally, it was COVID, and I reached out to him again. And so the final thing with him was he texted me this long essay. Mind you, the night before, we were talking about PB and Rock, the rapper, somebody who he doesn't even listen to. He doesn't listen to rap music at all. So I'm like, yo, that was his fate. He's like, oh, well, he died because he had a bunch of jewelry on. I said, that doesn't make sense. People get robbed all the time, regardless of what they have on. That's just ignorant. And you from Brooklyn, you should know that. Like, people get robbed all the time just because. If they feel like they could get away with it, they're going to do it. My parents was robbed in the 80s. They don't walk around with jewelry on. They're very modest. My mom, the most she'll walk around, she used to wear a necklace and then she stopped, but she wears her wedding ring and that's it. Very modest, very, very modest. Like, ain't nobody modest more than my parents. So I was like, yo, everybody got robbed in the 80s. Like, most people been robbed at least once. A lot of people. Has nothing to do with being flashy. I'm like, everybody's not meant to live to 90 years old. So the next morning he goes and said, he went in on me. He was like, you need therapy. You ain't never changed. I'm not going through this shit in my 30s. I'm too old for this shit. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, because it's like, and I told him, I said, what you're telling me, you should go and tell somebody else. I said, didn't you say early, because weeks prior to that, he was like, his aunt told him, like, you can't just be cutting people off for no reason. Like, nobody's perfect. And I said that to him. Nobody's perfect. Nobody did anything to you. Because I have an opinion and I believe in fate. That's my opinion. That PB and Rock died because it was his time. Everybody's not meant to be 90 years old. That's Disneyland. That's not real. Everybody's not meant, and for you to say that it's his fault that he died, he shouldn't have been wearing all that jewelry, that's your opinion. You're entitled to it. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say you're wrong, but I feel like it doesn't really make sense because there's a lot of people that I know personally that have told me that they've been robbed, and they're not flashy people. You get robbed because the person robbing you feels like they could get away with it. That's why people rob. That's why people shoplift. People shoplift, for example, because they feel like they can get away with it. Nobody's watching them, and so they do it. That's why people commit crimes, because they feel like they could get away with it. You know? So when he said that, I was like, okay, you're entitled to your opinion. We could agree to disagree. Like, why you... I said, if that makes you feel good to end a 20-year friendship off of a rapper you don't even listen to, you go right on ahead. And I'm not kissing your butt. Because that was the problem in our friendship. Like, I would always chase after him. And I would always, oh, let's be friends again. I was like, when he sent me that text, I said, deuces. And you have a great life. If that's how you think and process information, cool. Like, and then I seen him in the street summer of 24. When did I get my permit? Because my permit had expired. So my permit had expired. So I went to like get another one. And I seen him in the street, and it's those of y'all from Brooklyn by Barclays. It's like across the street from BAM. It's like in that center. It's like a weird street, but like it's closer to BAM, and it's a truck stop, a Mexican truck stop. So I went to get something to eat, and he was there, and he act like he ain't see me. Now, the old me would have stopped him like, hey, let's be friends again, because that's how I am. Like, I'm always, like, trying to work things out with people, especially him, because we were so close. Like, we were so close for so long, and then you want to end it off of something like that. And that's when I realized, Crystal, people are miserable, and everybody have their expiration date. Like, he reached his expiration date, leave him alone. Like, if he was to come to me, which he would never do that because he's very arrogant, like, he would never. That's one thing about people that's Leos. And I'm not the type to stereotype, but a lot of Leos, they never gonna admit that they was wrong. They're never gonna say, yeah, I probably overreacted. No. They could be wrong as two left shoes, and they will not talk to you for decades in their wrongness. They'll never say, and that was my problem. I was always saying I didn't even do anything, and I would always come to him and try to mend or whatever. I'm like, fuck that, you know. And then with my other former friend, she was a Leo too, and I'm like, well, what happened? You blocked me, because we were very close. And I had told myself, I was like, I'm tired of doing I would do all the texting and the calling. And I think I said that in a previous video. If you're doing all the texting and calling in any of your relationships, especially a friendship, that person's not your friend. And it's a hard pill to swallow. And for me, I didn't want to admit it. But I put it to the test. And I didn't realize it, but I was addicted to texting her every day. Like, it's almost like I couldn't help it. So what I did is I deleted her number to stop myself from texting her so much, right? So 1 month turned into a year, turned into 3 years. So I was like, then I realized I was blocked. She deleted me first, and then she blocked me. And I was confused because I'm like, we never had an argument. We never even had we had a disagreement about the food, because she had texted me the next morning after her birthday, her 30th birthday. This is 2018. And she's like, oh, my friend said you don't know Spanish food and this and that. I said, first of all, your friend is not the only Spanish person in the world. And I'm from Brooklyn. So obviously the way that they prepare their food in Brooklyn is going to be different from where you live. You live in Long Island. It's predominantly whoever is over there, white or whatever. Or, well, where she live at is black people. But obviously our taste buds are going to be different because we live in different socioeconomic neighborhoods. When you live in Long Island or somewhere with wealth and money, the food tastes different. It's not going to be all that salt, and it's not going to taste right. You know, it'll taste right to you, but for a person like me, I like a lot of salt. I'm not ashamed of that. I like food that tastes good. So the Spanish food is going to taste different. Washington Heights, Brooklyn, the Bronx. That Spanish food is going to taste different than Spanish food that you're used to, for example. And I told her that. I said, your friend don't speak for the whole race of Spanish people. I've never heard of Spanish people making dry rice. Spanish people are from what I know, their food is very delicious and tasty. And so the restaurant that we went to, she's like, oh, I liked my food. I said, I'm happy for you. It was your birthday. But I said, we went through this last night. You asked me how did I like my food. I did not like my food. And the waiter got my order mixed up. If you was in my shoes, you would have had an attitude too. So I go up to her as a woman, 2021, and she had blocked me. So I had went through her brother and two of her friends that were still friends with me on Facebook. She went in on me. She was like, oh, you had an attitude at my birthday. I said, why you never said this? You never said this. This is 3 years later, mind you. This happened in 18. And so she finally reaches back out at 21. She's like, I highly suggest that you do not reach out to my family and friends. I said, obviously, I'm not going to do that if I'm talking to you now. I said, and watch your mouth. I'm not one of the niggas that you fucked. Watch your mouth. Why are you talking to me like this? Like, she was just so miserable. Because, again, if you're happy in life, you're not going to respond in that manner. And I said it. I said, I did not do anything to you. I didn't do anything to you. You're saying that I had an attitude at your birthday, but you never said this to me. You didn't say that the morning after your birthday, we was talking about the food. So if you felt like I had an attitude, why didn't you say something right then and there? Why didn't you say something the morning after? You wait till 3 years later to now you telling me how you feel? No, you been was feeling like that. I said, okay, so let's say hypothetically I had an attitude at your birthday. What other incident happened for you to end a 7 year friendship? And then she's like, oh, I'm sorry, and this and that, and blah, blah, blah. I said, and then in one of the messages, I was like, if you care about this friendship, call me and let's talk about it. She never called me. And it took me a long time to get over it because, like I said, this was a person who I thought was a very close friend. I talked to her every night. She was like my human diary. And I'm not like that with a lot of people. It's some people I'm close to, like my current homeboy from high school. We're very close. I haven't seen him in over a decade, but we talk and stuff like that. But I don't go around telling people my business. So, and then with her, we went out everywhere. Like she lived in Long Island, but we went out everywhere. So, and I was happy she was mean to me that in that moment because it's like, wow, this is who you are and this is how you feel about me. And I said that to her. I said, I've always been there for you. Where is this coming from? You just out of the blue just being rude, being mean, And I was like, obviously you was feeling some type of way, whatever, whatever. But one thing I'm not going to do is do all the calling and the texting. I wasn't going to go into my 30s with that type of friendship. Like, that's ridiculous, right? It's a two-way street. You should be hitting me up too. So, but I said all that to say this. If someone blows up at you and you know in your heart of hearts you did not do nothing to the person, or maybe you done something but it's not that serious, they were never your friend to begin with. And I can't stress that enough. They were never your friend to begin with. Just like with Andrea, with Little Women of Atlanta, Andrea went in on Minnie for no reason. It was just, she just hated her guts. And some people will be around you because you have something to offer. Minnie put them on to a lot of gigs. They called her Mama Bear because she guided them through. And you could see that Amanda was closer to Minnie than Andrea. Andrea didn't really like Minnie like that. Andrea was like the third wheel or whatever. It was pretty much their sisters. They were twin sisters, and it was kind of like, and she even said it to Money. She was like, she's not family. She's just a friend. Da da da, saying all this stuff, and it's like, where's this coming from? She never liked her, and that's something that I had to really accept with those three people that I thought, like I said with my former friend that was married, and I was in her wedding. She obviously always felt some type of way, and we were just going through the motions. That's what that was. And she said in a conversation, because, we had two different lifestyles, and her sister's friend, we were talking about it. She's like, she sounds like she's negative, and she was forced to grow up faster than she was ready for. Not just because she had a baby, but she got married at 20. She was engaged by 18. So, she chose not to have a social life. And she used to tell me, I don't want a social life. I don't need friends. I was like, you don't have no other friends? It's only me and, her best friend, Shamika, or whatever. And I was like, you ain't got no friends? She's like, I don't need friends. I don't need all that, da 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 da. And then she had another friend, but that's the one that told me she was talking about me. And that girl was crazy. She was putting her business up. But the way it was funny how we got together because our sons was in school together, elementary school. And I felt bad because he actually was close friends with him. And they was close, the little boy. And she was like, oh, he always talk about your son Antonio and stuff. But her energy was so negative, and she was jealous of our mutual friend. And she was jealous of me too. I can't be around somebody that's that jealous of me. Like, she would just say things that was just weird. You just know when somebody's jealous of you. And then she was jealous about mutual friends, so I didn't want to be around her. Whatever. And yeah, you know. And then with my homeboy that cut me off because of what I said about PB and Rock, it took me a long time to realize that he had issues that only God can solve. And it was hurtful because I'm like, you sit there and you think about it, and it's like, I did not, you didn't do anything. So it's like, why is this person being mean? Why don't this person want me in their life? And then it's like, when you mature, you realize, oh, I don't need this person in my life. Because sometimes we feel like we need, just like Monica and So Gone, she's like, said that I need you. I don't really need you. And that goes with friendships too. Like, you think you need this person, and oh my God, this person, like with my former friend that was married, she helped me get my first job. She told me about my third job because I had never heard of City yet. So she told me about it, and she actually told me about Mercy College too. You know, I probably would have ended up going to St. John's, So she was a great resource to me. I'm not going to lie. Like, if it wasn't for her, my first job would have been summer youth at 19. Because I wasn't a lucky person. Like, my son been working since 14. Most of my friends started working at 14, 16. I didn't start working until 18 because I just wasn't lucky like that. And, she started working when she was 14. So she always tried to put me on or whatever. And she was a great resource. I'll never take that away. But her time was then. When I started having sex, she's the one who told me about the free clinics. When I was pregnant, she's the one that went with me to get tested for being pregnant. So she really was a friend at the moment. She's what I needed at that moment, right? But sometimes, just because somebody help you out, that don't mean that you friends for life. And that's something I had to accept. Like, she was good for the moment, and I'll never regret our friendship because she was a great resource. Just like with my other former friend from Long Island. That in particular was a trauma bond because both of us was going through stuff with dudes. And the majority of that's another thing. Watch out for your conversation. So the majority of our conversations was about men. And I remember I brought that up to her, and she was like, oh, we talk about other things. I'm like, yeah, but 90% of our conversation was about dudes. So that was a trauma bond. And I knew it wasn't going to last because when you have a trauma bond, like you have some men that, like I know a clique. One of them died from cancer, what I told y'all about. So it's a clique. And then the other one, the one that was like the leader of the pack, he moved out of state. So they're not as close as they used to be. But one thing about this particular clique that I knew from my old job, not only was they all players, but none of them had fathers in their life. One of them, his father died. I think his father died when he was a teenager. I forget the age, but he always would post pictures of his dad because they was very close up until his death. And recently his mom died, unfortunately. But and he was very close with his mom, so I felt very bad. Like, he seemed like the good one out of the bunch, but I don't know because my homegirl left him. So both of my, but it was a clique of men, and they was all players, and three of them try to get with me, and I would say two. And one of them, two of them, one of them got in my pants. Two of them tried to get in my pants. And the one who died from cancer, he was like the oldest. He was older than all of them, right? But what they all had in common is none of them had fathers in their life. And I thought that to be kind of interesting because I'm like, I never really thought about it, but men could have trauma bonds too. You know, you got men who they be friends since 5 years old, and you be looking at them like, how are y'all even friends? Like, y'all don't have nothing in common other than that, other than y'all grew up together. But, and then even the girl who got married, I was thinking about it. I was like, what the hell does she have? Because I've been told her, like, you should stop being friends with the other girl because, she's obsessed with her baby daddy. She's stalking him. She, the dude is beating her and she's still sticking with him. He's spending her money. I was like, and then she keep getting pregnant by him. I was like, you don't need to be around a chick like that because that's negative, and her husband was telling her that too. Like, why are you friends with this girl? Like, she's just bad news. And so when years later, now that I'm older, what kept their friendships together was trauma bond. They both like jailbirds. They both like no good dudes. Because her dude, and they both went to the same high school too. So what got them together as friends is they like bad boys, right? Then me and her was friends because she was helping me out. Not that I was using her, but she was, like I said, she was a great, great resource. And she was very smart. That's one thing I can say about her. This girl was brilliant. She put herself through school at a very young age. I went back to school, whatever. I put myself through, but people had to teach me about financial aid. Like, I had a coworker, she told me about NYCHA because she used to come to work and brag about her rent was cheap. And I was like, girl, put me on, But she was the one who taught me about I didn't know nothing about financial aid. She put me on to financial aid, my old coworker. And she also was a great resource. And the girl from church that was in her wedding, she was a great resource. But she was negative. She just started making things up, and then the next thing I know, we weren't friends anymore because she wasn't happy with herself. And somebody could have a good life, but if they're not happy within themselves, they can't be happy for you. They can't, and that's just what it is. So bringing it back to Little Women of Atlanta, with Andrea, of course Andrea is going to take something as little as a proposal to her sister. First of all, that's his choice. Jordan, he wanted to propose to his fiance the way he wanted to. He wanted Minnie involved, not Andrea, because he told Amanda, Andrea, she didn't want to involve her. He had his reasons, right? So of course Andrea is gonna make it about herself. Like, I wasn't involved in picking up the ring. Like, why you gotta be involved? Why it gotta be about you? It's about your sister. Like, And then who in their rightful mind is gonna like make a big deal out of that? A person that's miserable. And then when you think about it, think about all the friendships that ended off of something stupid. Now, some friendships end off of, like, I've ended friendships for very good reasons. Like, I think I told y'all, one of my friendships I ended, the girl was ghetto and very disrespectful, very rude to me. So you're not going to be constantly saying slick stuff and we're going to remain friends. It's not going down. If I don't allow it from my own parents, I'm not going to allow it from you. So she was very rude, very disrespectful, just miserable and ghetto. And I don't do that, But if you know that somebody ends a friendship with you for no reason and you didn't do anything, just know it has nothing to do with you. That person is just miserable. Misery loves company. So if you're not miserable, they're not going to want you to be their company. You got to think about it that way. And, the same girl I told y'all from Long Island, what I noticed about her is she had friends, but she wasn't really close to nobody beside me. And then she had a male best friend. And coincidentally, we were single. her friends that had boyfriends and married, she wasn't close to them, and I peeped that. I'm like, she's happy for people, but low key she's not. That's how I see it, because it's like, why is it that you're close friends? And that could be just a coincidence. Y'all could be watching this like, what are you talking about? But I just felt like it was kind of weird that why is it that your two close friends, me and we're single. Once I got into my relationship, that's when things went kind of south between us. And I kind of figured that would happen because that's what happens in trauma bonds. When somebody gets healed and they kind of move on with life. And it's not because I had a man. I was finally over the things I was going through. I finally was over it. But when you're not over it, it subsides into other things. It ruins good friendships. So yeah, Andrea from Little Women of Atlanta, she's miserable. Like, everybody could see that. And so when she didn't get proposed to, she was very upset. So she's not going to put it on her sister. She would look crazy. She puts it on Minnie. Minnie didn't do anything. And her sister had to talk sense into her, like, what is wrong with you? Minnie didn't do anything. Then she goes on to say she didn't want to invite her to the baby shower. Why? Because she's miserable. And I thought that apology was so fake because her sister had to come and tell her, like, oh, you need to apologize. Minnie didn't do anything. Why are you like this? Why are you just so angry for what? Minnie didn't do anything. And you just angry. And it's like, it's such a good episode because it's like, I could relate to that. People have gotten upset with me and I didn't even do anything. That's because they're miserable in their own lives. And might I add, she was going to cut Minnie off. She was like, she didn't want to talk to her no more. She didn't want to invite her to the baby shower. All of this because of a proposal. No, it's because she's miserable and she just wants a reason to stop being friends with Minnie. Then when Minnie passed away, who crying the hardest? Like, no, do right by people when they alive. And that's what really hurt me with out of all my previous friendships. And it was just those three that I was the closest to. Everybody else is kind of like, whatever. But what hurt me the most is I came to the Long Island girl and she just went in on me, but I defended myself. Like, watch your mouth. I didn't do nothing to you. Like, but that's all I wanted to say. If you know you didn't do anything, you could just move on. And misery likes company. Just like on these reality shows, a lot of these people are miserable. They don't know how to be a friend to themselves. And I wanted to stress that out. Like, if a person don't treat themselves right, and if they're not a friend to themselves, they cannot be your friend. It's impossible. It's impossible. And it has nothing to do with marital status. It has nothing to do with that. If a person is not happy within themselves, they're not going to share that. They can't share that happiness because they're not happy. People can't share what they don't have, right? If I have cookies, I can share with you. But if I don't have cookies, I can't share with you. So you got to think of it that way, right? People can only share what's in them, right? People who are miserable, they don't know a better way. They just fucking miserable. And they could have everything. They could have a good job, a career, family, friends. And from the outside looking in, you like, this person has everything. Why are they acting like this towards me? It's internal. I'm telling you, it's inside. It's inside. And those are my thoughts.